There's the plug. Mark it down.
It'll be a drinking game for these episodes. Every time Mary slips in and mentions Vettel.
Take a shot. Hey everyone, welcome back to The Grid. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming changes to the 2022 season. We got a lot of changes this season. We've got a couple of new drivers, there's a lot changing with the car, and then teams overall and some different regulations. So we'll be breaking it down a little bit as we go.
All right. Think we dive into it? I feel like a good place to start is George Russell.
Yeah, I think that's the highest profile move amongst the drivers. Obviously there's
Besides the rookie. I feel like the rookie is another good place to start.
Yeah, but I feel like George Russell is definitely the most publicized move. And I think that's the one that people are most excited about. I think it's always fun to see a rookie, but I think George, like so many people have seen so much potential in him, that to see him moving to a world-class team and getting in that car has people really excited.
And people are expecting a lot of him, because I wonder how he's going to do with the pressure, because they are, like, that one race where he stood in for Hamilton, ever since then I feel like everyone's been backing him.
When did he stand in for Hamilton? 2020.
2020, yeah.
Hamilton got COVID and couldn't race, and so he got called up. With how well Lewis has performed for Mercedes throughout the past years, I think it's going to be hard for them to... The season, in my mind, can go a couple of ways. Like, either Hamilton's just not competing to the level that he normally is, and like George just shoots out of the gate really strong, and so they end up like shifting once it gets midway through the season and it's looking like, hey, we might need to start prioritizing him. I could see that happening. I feel like there's a lot of loyalty though to get Lewis to his 8th championship. Mm-hmm. So I could also see them deprioritizing George even if he is doing well, and George getting really frustrated by that, especially if he is delivering results. If there's ever a call they make, I mean, they're continuing to pick Lewis, but we'll see, because sometimes some of the younger drivers are pretty good about knowing their place. We'll see. I don't know how he reacts, like, to being potentially put second. Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I think there might be a little more conflict, because first of all, you have, the prioritization to get Lewis to break the record, get the 8th championship. I think there is the expectation that since it's his first year at Mercedes, that he will be the second driver because he's still learning and he's still new to the team. But, I mean, I think there was a news article that came out. He was when it was announced that he was formally moving, he was like, I was ready to do this last year. So I think he's going to come in hot.
I feel like you have to, too, though. You can't be a rookie driver and be like, oh, I'm just going to automatically take a back seat.
Do you think because of all the changes to the car, which I know we'll talk about here in a little bit, everyone's learning, so it almost would shake it up more than a normal transfer, because Lewis would have known the car, and even though they make slight tweaks every year, he'd be like super comfortable, where George is coming into a brand new car and having to learn, and even if he's good at adapting, versus now there's almost like a leveling of the playing field where there's a lot of new changes, so everyone's having to learn.
Yeah, I think because of all the changes, that's the purpose, is to level the playing field. So Hamilton, I think, is a naturally good driver. Like, when he gets into any car, I feel like he probably he knows what to do. But the regulation changes are supposed to change how they're trying to, like, compact it. So, like, people are driving closer, and you don't have people like getting so far ahead, like we saw so many times with either like Hamilton or Max just like taking off.
I think that the playing field will be somewhat leveled with the car and the changes to the car, but I think just a new team in general, like you're adjusting to a new engineer, you're adjusting to a new team boss, a new communication style. I don't know how closely like he works with the mechanics or the rest of the team supporting him, but I think Lewis still has the advantage for sure over, like, he knows the Mercedes team. And, like, from the people standpoint, like, he's been working with his trainer, with his engineer. And, I mean, I'm sure I think, like, your trainers typically change teams with you as well.
I was wondering that.
I think understanding like the Toto's leadership style, understanding, you know, how they communicate on the radios, and I think all that like behind the scenes stuff. Obviously, like he's a phenomenal driver, but I mean, I think Russell's going to shake a lot up. It's going to be exciting to see. Granted, I'm personally rooting for a little team drama. You know, I don't want to see smooth sailing for Mercedes. Where's the fun in that?
Oh, we need the drama.
I want a cutthroat environment. I want to see it get nasty. I want the two Mercedes taking each other out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is some drama. And we've seen that on a couple different teams before.
Stir the pot. Stir the pot.
Also, George is just a lot taller than all of the other drivers. I didn't realize that.
Well, speaking of Mercedes, I think that Bottas was criminally underappreciated as a part of that team, and I don't think that he got the recognition he deserved while at Mercedes. Obviously, I think Lewis took the spotlight away from him. I think he's been an incredibly consistent driver and has helped deliver the Constructors' Championship to Mercedes and been really key to that. And this year, during qualifying for Saudi Arabia, he actually became only the third driver in F1 history to qualify inside the top 10 for 100 consecutive races. And I think that just proves...
Wow.
Yeah, like he's performed consistently, performed phenomenally in my mind, and didn't get the recognition he deserved.
Yeah, and I think Mercedes kind of did him dirty. They never gave him multi-year contracts, so he was living every single year wondering what his next year was going to be and with what team. That kind of instability, I don't know how you function as a driver, like looking at your future if you don't think that you're even going to be at the same team next year.
It's going to mess with your head a lot.
And he talks about it a lot, that he thinks that he can perform so much better if he had a multi-year contract, which he will have at Alfa Romeo.
Because, I mean, 100 races consecutively, that's multiple seasons. So to perform that consistently across multiple seasons in those conditions...
Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild.
But he'll also be training someone new at Alfa Romeo. So hopefully it gives him a chance to shine as a leader and perform really well. Granted, it's not going to be probably as good of a car, but... I think he will be the team leader at Alfa Romeo.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think his teammate is going to be a rookie. And if I was a rookie, I think he would be a great driver to be partnered with for a team.
Absolutely. Because he's been in the sport so long, too. I'm sure he works well with the teams. He would be a top choice.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a team player.
Yeah.
You would want him as a teammate?
I'd want him as a teammate. If I were a brand new rookie and, like, you had somebody to mentor you, I think he'd be a great teammate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of someone better, but that might be it.
Sebastian Vettel.
Oh, okay.
There's the plug. Mark it down.
It'll be a drinking game for these episodes. Every time Mary slips in and mentions Vettel.
Take a shot.
But I'll be anxious to see how Guan Yu Zhou drives. First Chinese driver, rookie season. I feel like a lot of pressure is going to be on him, but he does have a good teammate, so hopefully his takes off well.
And it sounds like he had some good experience coming out of F2.
Yeah. I don't really know what to say about him. I haven't heard much.
I think anytime there's a rookie in the sport, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, especially the first couple races, seeing them get adjusted.
Well, I feel like we keep talking about all the changes to the cars and how that's going to impact the season.
Wait, I forgot about
You forgot about Albon.
Oh, fuck.
He returns! The return of Alex.
No, I definitely think it's good to see Albon back on the grid. You know, obviously had a bit of a rocky time at Red Bull, and I can't imagine being in that Red Bull environment and then not performing, and it's nice to see him get another chance.
Yeah, because I think once you're a reserve driver, I wonder if they ever think that they're going to come back. I feel like there's a lot of reserve drivers that you never see back truly on the grid.
Yeah.
This has been hard since he's such good buddies with Lando and Leclerc. And seeing your friends continue on. Didn't they start or race together in F2?
Yeah, I think they all kind of grew up together, and so to have your cohort to make it and then to be the one who kind of falls out, you know, I feel like that really has to light a fire under you and make you push that much harder to get back in and really show people what you're made of.
It would have been really interesting to hear those contract negotiations, though, because I know Red Bull and Mercedes went back and forth with that trade because he's technically a Red Bull driver, Alex is, and then driving for Williams, which is technically a Mercedes team. I know that he's probably just loaded with NDAs right now.
That's so true.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that aspect.
Well, because he said when he did move over to Williams that he still had good relationships with the Red Bull franchise, pretty much, but...
Because they attribute a lot of the success for Red Bull's year to Alex because he did a lot of the testing, which is really important to just learn the car and different paths. I don't know. It's getting a little too technical for me, but they did give him a shout out for it at least.
Yeah, and it's good to see that that wasn't, at least publicly, a nasty split.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody who's still that young in their career and has, hopefully, a lot of time in the sport ahead of them. You know, you'd hate to see it get dirty this early.
Yeah. But I think we've talked a lot about the drivers. I think the other exciting thing for the next year is going to be all of the changes to the cars. So with new regulations, it sounds like a complete overhaul to the cars and what they do next year. I think one of the main things that they're trying to change is the aerodynamics so you can follow behind a car and not what we always hear is the dirty air that you get from the back of a car. The new wings, which are kind of iconic, the rounded wings. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually perform the same. Because they said, even like, I think it was FIA said that if the regulations change enough to where you can be following a car closer, that they're going to take out DRS zones.
Well, because it's interesting because when you're following a car, at least this past season, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because on one side, you get the slipstream. They're breaking the air in front of you, making it easier for you to move through it. But on the other hand, they're kicking out their dirty air from their exhaust. And so you're getting an advantage while also, you know, dealing with the consequences of the dirty air. With the dirty air elimination, I wonder how that'll play into the slipstreams and how much it incentivizes.
Yeah, the distance will change. Because I think the slipstream is like a certain distance behind a car, and then like the dirty air is another. For some reason, every time I drive now, when I'm following a car, I always think of dirty air. I'm like, oh, gotta get their slipstream to pass them.
So my brother is obsessed with like saving on gas and driving the most fuel efficient way possible, which to all of our listeners apparently means driving 65 on the freeway, and it drives me insane.
Oh, just that guy?
Yeah, because I'm like, at least go the speed limit, at least go 70. You're not actually a grandpa. And he's like, this is the most fuel efficient speed. Like, that's why in the gas shortages of the 70s, like, they cap speed limits. The faster you go, the less fuel efficient you are. And I'm like, I get it. Shut the fuck up. We're on the freeway. Let's go.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so he's the one who initially like taught me about slipstreams, where he's like, if you're following a semi, you can usually get the slipstream of a semi on the freeway, and then your car uses less gas.
You're joking.
No, I'm dead ass. Like, my brother will do that sometimes. But so you have to be really careful, because then sometimes you're in their blind spots when you're doing that.
Yeah, and you get all... I think that's where I originally thought of dirty air, is when you fall behind a semi.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when it's raining and all of that gets on your car.
And they just kick up a bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
I know.
How many broken windshields has he had?
Like, surprisingly none.
Really?
That I can think of, anyway.
Well,
He takes good care of his cars. As somebody who recently got into my first accident hitting another car, I'm just going to shut the fuck up and not say anything else. Rip, the Mustang.
What a shame.
And guys, I'm not cool enough to have a Mustang. I'm not even cool enough to have my own car. I live in the city of Chicago and don't own a car. But anyway, if you're ever renting a car, buy the insurance. Always worth it. Shameless plug.
We're not sponsored by a rental dealership.
We're not sponsored by anybody. I'm saying this for your own wallet.
But I guess speaking of spend, one of the other main changes, they're trying to reduce the R&D spend. So the gearboxes are going to be frozen for the next 3 years, which is really interesting. So they're trying to jam-pack everything they possibly can into their development right now. So they'll have it for the next 3 years and they can't make any changes. I think they're allowed to do like one upgrade or something.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really interesting because this past season we even saw how much gearboxes played into the performance of the cars in the upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Was the reduction in R&D spend something that the teams wanted, or is it something made to level the playing field?
It's all of these are pretty much made to level the playing field, because in order to make a level playing field, you have to cap the amount of spend. Because they're big teams, obviously, like Mercedes, Red Bull, they have so many sponsors, they can spend whatever they want. Mm-hmm. But then you have teams like Williams and Haas that don't have that type of spending, so they can't. The other thing that they did to level the playing field is this past year, so the championship, how they ended up in the championship, they're like 1st to 10th place, the constructors. That also assigns, they get different, it's not even a budget, it's like a percentage. So like last place will have 115% more time in like a wind tunnel.
Oh.
Versus
interesting.
First place actually gets a penalty. I want to say it's like 90%. So then that kind of levels the playing field. So that's all the testing you can do inside the wind tunnel, which is, I don't know exactly what it does, but, with aerodynamics, it's a little over my head, but.
Well, I mean, I think the wind tunnel, it's probably going to be your best chance to really test things before you're on the track.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get the reduction in time. If you don't have as much time to tweak things or test things, then I can understand why it's an advantage to have more.
Oh, I didn't realize the multiplier is even lower than I thought it was. So first place is 75%.
Wow.
Last place gets 110% more time.
Oh, wow.
75 that's pretty significant to cut. Yeah.
Damn.
So I guess there is a little bit of advantage to being midfield, because then you have a better opportunity for the next year.
I think one of the other big changes, too, that we're hearing of, and again, bear with me, not an engineer myself, in order to create more downforce, they're changing the undersides of the car. And again, details are maybe a little above my pay grade, but it's something that we haven't seen in the sport since the 70s, and since I wasn't even alive in the 70s, it'll be fun to see. Getting a little vintage, getting a little retro, if you will.
Dear God, what else is coming back from the 70s? Are you kidding me? First I gotta wear bell bottoms again. Okay, I will say I do like my fur coat, but
You rocking those bell bottoms? You gotta tell us something?
I tried. I ordered some jeans.
You did?
Oh my God, you ordered bell bottoms?
Jack.
No, I did like the straight. I figured, maybe some of the Gen Zers are onto something over there, and
Are you gonna start middle parting your hair?
I talked about it with my hairdresser, and we don't think that I have the right face for it.
Oh my God.
You're gonna have to send photos of these bell bottoms. I'm dying.
I already returned them. The photos exist.
Wow.
Savage.
I was trying to think of other things from the 70s that I wouldn't want to see back.
I don't want to give the wrong people false hope, but there's a certain type of person out there, and you know who you are, who can pull off a mullet.
No.
There are certain people who can. Also, love a mullet on somebody who can pull it off. It's rare. I will say that. So there are a lot of people who think they can't. But when someone can, it's a sight to see. A beauty to behold.
Honestly, though, with the mullets, I feel guys love them more. Like, my cousin would always talk about how you get 100,000 compliments from dudes on it. He's like, the only people that come up and talk to me about my hair is other guys.
Well, yeah, I don't think girls love mullets.
Like I said.
Except for Mary, apparently.
It's a rare exception, but...
You gotta show me photos of an attractive mullet.
Okay.
That'd be my homework.
One of the other changes that's coming up that is always good to see is a bigger focus on more sustainable fuels. So, obviously, the entire sport of Formula One...
Please break down fuel compounds for me.
No, I'm just saying it's not a very eco-friendly sport. Okay?
Right. Yep.
You can't deny the environmental impact of the sport, which actually, the vast majority of the environmental impact is the logistics of traveling to all of the races and moving all of the equipment to races.
Right.
It's not actually the fuel they're burning during the race, regardless.
But every step forward is a step forward.
Take your wins where you can. I mean, the nature of the sport, not super eco-friendly. But currently, the fuel was, I think it's a little under 6% biofuels. It's going to move up to 10. So,
ooh.
Baby steps, baby steps. We still love to see it. You know who else loves to see it? Take another shot, lady. Sebastian Vettel.
Oh God, I'm gonna be like slurring my words by the end of this.
Outspoken environmentalist. My man.
Every time you say a new fact about Sebastian, I understand more and more why you like him so much.
You can't not. Good guy Seb. Good guy Seb.
He's rocking the long hair now. Speaking of mullets.
What?
He does not have a mullet, but he did grow his hair out.
It is, yeah. It's a bit longer now.
Is it like long enough to be in a man bun?
No.
Okay.
But it's like curls and all that again. He used to have that same hairstyle, everyone's saying, like when he used to drive for Red Bull. So they're saying it's his season. If that makes you feel better.
Yeah, we're going to see him on the podium.
Yeah.
And again, when he wins the World Drivers' Championship, you're all going to drink champagne out of my shoes. Get ready.
Keep dreaming, Chica.
Start drinking, Chica.
Did we also agree to a Vettel one? A Vettel shoey?
You could go listen to the recording. Hell yeah.
Did I agree to a Vettel shoey?
I don't know if we did. I think we only agreed to a Ferrari, like either of the Ferrari drivers.
Yeah.
No, I said or Sebastian Vettel.
Why did she get 3 and I only get 2?
I have 0,
Well,
just to clarify.
You know, you guys gave it to me because you're like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah, that's true.
I think we actually did concede.
I think, all right.
I don't know that much about chassis and impact and energy absorbed.
Oh, hit us with it.
Long story short, cars are going to be even safer.
Are they?
Yeah.
How so?
They have to absorb more energy during crashes. And
Okay.
so in order to help protect the drivers more, which we always love to see that. Halo was a really good introduction. Keeps everyone safe. We saw that this season. Just making the sport safer. Makes me feel better as a fan watching it.
I'm happy for you.
I'll drink to safety.
Jack's like, I'll drink anything over here.
Well, we knew it was coming.
Savage, but true.
Claire Williams, she's fucking out.
I mean, the girl has just not performed.
Imagine taking your family's like legacy,
Oh,
and this is where you're at.
yeah.
Because Williams as a team, historically, they were really good.
Yeah. I like that they're keeping the name moving forward, though.
Yeah.
But New ownership.
This is the first time there won't be a Williams managing the Williams team.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say ever.
Yeah, that's fair. But I wonder how much of it is like her versus like the money aspect of it. Because I know she was super sad. She like wanted to pass this on to her children, and now she can't.
I will say though,
Not to get even more sad.
Wow, we're being so empathetic.
I don't want to shit on like one of the few like high profile women in the sport. I will say though, I feel like I didn't fully appreciate this, but technically, Williams is second only to Mercedes in constructors titles.
Oh, that's super cool. I did not know that.
I mean, during their heyday, they kicked ass. You know, I mean, also, of all of the teams currently in the sport, they have the 4th highest number of race wins.
Yeah, I think that's just us coming into the race game so late. We don't know all that history, but that's pretty cool.
I think the other notable management change in terms of teams is on the Aston Martin side. Otmar Safnauer is out and is replaced with a man named Mike Crack. And as you can hear, it's really hard to say without laughing. My apologies, Mike. He was with BMW in Formula E. He's been in Formula 1 back in the day. Be interesting to see how that impacts, especially knowing that Aston Martin, they've made quite a few investments this year. So
We'll see how that fits into Lawrence's plan, his master plan. I'm sure it's part of it.
Makes it sound like he's like trying to take over the world. His master plan.
He does. He has a 5-year plan.
trying to take over Formula 1, that's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, and then I think in terms of big team news, KP, you want to talk about Red Bull?
No, I think it's exciting to see that there's going to be a new engine on the grid. So Red Bull's manufacturing their own engine this next year. They're taking in-house for the next 3 years? Yeah, 2022 to 2020. No, 2 years. So for the next 2 years, Red Bull's going to be manufacturing their own engine in-house. So I think they just took all the Honda technology and are looking to manufacture it. And then in 2025, I think they're dropping the Honda name altogether and it'll just be Red Bull. That leaves a big opportunity for other teams to also use a Red Bull engine, right? Because you see Williams is out there with a Mercedes engine. There's a couple different Ferrari engines out there. So it'll be interesting to see if other people want the Red Bull engine.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see a team move from being a buyer to a supplier.
Right.
I feel like that definitely impacts some of the politics of the grid.
Yeah, the sprint races are another exciting thing. Apparently they're going to double the amount of sprint races this next year.
You know, I love the sprint races. Get a little exciting during qualifying, you know, shake it up a bit. I looked forward to those races this year. I'm excited that they're bringing more into the season.
Personally, I kind of thought it was funny when, for these sprint races, they did the little parade with the laurels.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like...
Those are awkward. They need to change that.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny because you're like, okay, I know we do the podium celebrations, champagne sprays for the winners of the races, but when's the last time you saw somebody wear laurels? Like, let's talk about old school.
Yeah.
What is a laurel?
It's like a wreath.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, on the top of your head?
No, it's
the
like
ones
a
that
big
like around
wreath.
their
They,
shoulders.
Like, put it over their head and it sits on their shoulders.
Think like ancient Greece Olympic vibes.
Yeah.
I love this for them. That's freaking incredible.
It is extra, which is like everything Formula One.
It's a vibe.
It is interesting, though, because I think a lot of the teams dislike sprint races. One, it's extra risk for drivers to crash. It's extra money, I'm sure that has to go into it. And the points has been widely debated because you're getting points for the sprint races. So it's not comparable year over year with points anymore.
Well, and I know some of the drivers have been outspoken, too, about how it impacts the pole statistics because the sprint race it's really a qualifier. It's not a race. But if you place first in Q3 and you hold pole for the sprint race, some of the drivers have argued that the poles for the sprint race shouldn't count towards your total poles because because then the winners of the sprint race start on pole for the real race. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, you know, it's messing up the statistics.
Yeah. We should probably give a little background on sprint races, though. They usually have 2 practice sessions on Thursdays, and then I think they do a 3rd practice session on Friday with qualifying. And then Saturday is now a sprint race. So what position you get in qualifying is qualifying for the sprint race, and then the position that you get in the sprint race is your starting position for the race. It's a lot now. But it's fun because it kind of jam-packs a full race into a smaller race, and I feel like the first 5 laps, 10 laps of the race are really excited, and same with the last 5 to 10 laps of a race. So when you just combine it?
Well, and it takes away some of the strategy because I think part of a race, too, is the endurance component and a lot of the tire management, where in the sprint race, you have that to some extent, but it's very different. You know, we've seen the fact that certain tire compounds could be used for the entire sprint. I think one thing about the sprint races is it's really fun to watch as a fan.
Right.
I think the drivers and the teams have really mixed feelings.
So we'll see if it shows up next year. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's still up for debate.
Yeah. Hey everyone, since we first recorded this podcast, there have been some additional changes. The biggest one being that Haas has terminated their contract with Nikita Mazzapin. Don't know all of the details into exactly why this happened. Previously, there had been a decision that he wouldn't be allowed to race at Silverstone. This is all tied in some fashion to the ongoing crisis with Ukraine and Russia. Pretty sure details will start to come out in the coming days. But we did want to highlight that change since we talked about the driver lineup earlier in this episode. And I think the big question right now for Haas is, who's going to replace him?
Haas has 2 reserve drivers. So Pietro Fittipaldi, who's one of those racing families. He's part of one of those racing families. And then there's Antonio Giovinazzi, who we saw last year. So it'll be interesting who they choose because I think originally everyone was thinking Fittipaldi, but Giovinazzi is a Ferrari Academy driver, so we'll see if they end up going with him because they have a Ferrari engine. Either way, I feel like it's going to be spicy. I feel like the way that they dropped Nikita too, Haas had posted a photo of Fittipaldi driving because he's the reserve driver, right? So like they had posted one of his cars driving for practice or for the testing session. And so then they're like, kind of interesting that a couple days later they dropped Mazzapin and Fittipaldi is probably going to be the new driver.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty strong signal, but it also, and believe it or not, us grid gals here on episode 2 aren't privy to the inter-team negotiations yet. But based on Mazzapin's Instagram posts, it sounded like he was taken off guard.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because
I think he expected something, but I don't think he expected his contract to be completely terminated.
Right, because Haas has to also terminate their contract with Ukrali. Is that the sponsor that they have?
Ukrali, I think so. Yeah, and that's Mazzapin's father's company, correct?
Right, I believe so. So how Haas is going to even survive this year is going to be interesting too without that sponsorship. I assume they'll have to go with someone that has money to give them another sponsorship.
Yeah.
I want to see what Gunther has to say though, because I feel like Gunther's like the sassiest team principal on the grid. So he has to have something to say.
I mean, he has been the star of Drive to Survive, and I'm excited. I know we keep saying that things are shaking up the grid and that there's a lot of changes, and we're really excited for this season. But this is an 11th hour to change a driver out. I mean, right now, that's pretty major.
I think they did it right at the perfect time though, because they had just done testing, so they had Nikita for testing, but then they're going to do another round of testing. Where's the next? It's Abu Dhabi? Bahrain? I think, it's Bahrain. Because and that one will be televised. So I'm sure they're going to have their reserve driver picked out, or their actual driver picked out probably from their reserves by that time.
Well, we'll have to stay tuned. So a lot of changes at Haas. I think we're actually quite excited to see how it plays out. Next week, if you'll tune in, you'll hear all of our predictions for the 2022 season. And we'll have to factor this shakeup in somehow. Keep listening, subscribe, rate us, leave a review, visit our website, hit up our socials. We'd love to hear from you. And that's the checkered flag for this session.